I'm Ashley Esqueda. Welcome to the Spacetime Studios Hangout with Cinco. We have some other fantastic journalists with us today. I'm Ashley Esqueda. If I didn't say that already, I'm nervous, and it's in the middle of a Thursday, so what can I say? We have some great journalists with us. We have Carter Dotson. Hello, Carter.
Hi, Ashley.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
I am good. Like I said, I'm a little nervous. I always get nervous when these things are live because you never know what's going to happen. We could have somebody, there could be a streaker, we could have violence, there could be a riot, you just never, an explosion. There's all kinds of things that can happen when we do things live. So you are a freelance writer from Texas. You, excuse me, have covered mobile and gaming since 2009, so basically at the forefront of mobile gaming especially. You have written for 148 apps since 2010, and you host the weekly mobile gaming podcast, The Portable Podcast. So that is that's really cool. How do you feel about the podcast? Do you totally love it? Where can people go listen to it?
I love doing the podcast. I get to talk to a lot of indie developers. You can check it out at theportablepodcast.com, or it shows up on 148apps.com, or just search for The Portable Podcast on iTunes.
Fantastic. And next up we have Beau Hindman. Hello, Beau.
Hi, how you doing?
I am good. You cover indie browser and odd MMOs for Massively.com. So you cover things that are a little bit different from mainstream MMOs, which Spacetime definitely at the front of that. You are addicted to mobile technology. That seems like a problem that maybe you should see somebody about.
Well, I like simple now. I've given up on buying monster PCs to play games with. I'm all about browser, tablet stuff. Yeah, all that good stuff.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think a lot of people are really excited about what's happening in mobile gaming-wise. I think it's a really big industry that's getting bigger every day. So in addition to being a writer, you're also an artist and a drummer. How's that? Drummers get a bad rap. Is that sort of a are you kind of lazy? Do you get all the girls though? Is that
No.
That's also true?
When did you get out of jail?
Everything about drummers is true. Don't let them write your songs. Don't ask their ideas. Art. I've always been an artist since I was a kid. I actually was going towards an art career before I started writing more and stuff. So now I'm more doing writing, I guess, as much as I can.
Still doing creative stuff, which is super cool. And our last journalist is Heidi, Duran. You Thanatos over on girlgamer.com. I know Cricket, so Cricket and I are tight. She's a good chap. Heidi is an artist, an actress, a screenwriter, a singer-songwriter, and an all-around gamer, making her pretty much what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4.
She
5,
wins.
6. Yeah, you pretty much win at life. You are the editor-in-chief over at girlgamer.com. You love easy cheese, shotguns, and you are convinced that Pyramid Head from the Silent Hill franchise is a dirty cheater when it comes to poker.
Yes.
I have never played poker with Pyramid Head, so I'm going to take your word for that. So
yeah, just don't.
Just don't. I also like that. After seeing Silent Hill and playing all the games, I am convinced that that might be the right plan of action. And lastly, of course, we have the Chief Visionary Officer of Spacetime Studios, or as I like to call him, the Creative Master of the Universe at Spacetime. Cinco Barnes is with us. Hi, Cinco.
Hi.
I have to congratulate you on having the coolest backdrop today out of all 5 of us.
Thank you very much.
Did you draw all those things yourself?
Not a one of them.
Not a one. Good.
No, but hired the guy and supported the guy.
Well, good, because you picked somebody really great because there's some excellent art back there. So we're here to talk about Dark Legends. If you guys aren't familiar with me out there, I write the mobile games roundup for G4TV.com. I also host a very seedy, swearing podcast called Tech Foolery. It's a lot of fun. You can go to techfoolery.tv to check it out if you're so inclined. And Dark Legends was my game of the week, I know. As for you guys, what did the 3 of you think of Dark Legends when it was launched?
I loved it just because I like all their other games. I'm a huge fan. But there was a lot of issues that came up with it. I'm sure we're going to get to that, but not any negative. I didn't have any really negative responses, but I know a lot of players did, I think, because it was a little bit different.
There's definitely some differences from their previous outings, which Pocket Legends and Star Legends, which both really fun games. I believe Pocket Legends was mobile game of the year. Am I right for 2010, Cinco?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really amazing. So you're
These are
so talkative today, Cinco. If you could just keep the answers a lot shorter, it's really that. Perfect, great. Just thumbs up. That's all we need. So so let's talk about that, because I think it's important to sort of talk about the whole energy system and how players have responded to it. So Cinco, do you want to walk us through sort of what made you guys think of the energy system, and also how it was received by players when you guys launched Arc Legends?
That was a real mix, but at the very beginning, what we wanted to do is we wanted to create a system where we could bring in elements of story, but not necessarily have them tied to specific areas of the world. Being hardcore MMO players, a lot of times the story built within a contiguous universe is a little bit difficult to maintain, and we figured what we could do was have points along the way for the story arc for your character where you would be taken out of the 3D action, shown this cool little cinematic, given some story advancement, and then back onto the track of 3D missions. I think that it was a really valiant and on our part, valiant, but it didn't really mesh really well. I think now, after going through the development, playing it, we felt like those story parts needed to be pulled out from 3D. So what we've done is we've sort of re-examined the whole approach to it and really focusing in on character as opposed to the second-person story where your vampire goes and like molests a hobo for 12 hours or whatever for enemies to come back. Now it's
that is my favorite quest in Dark Legends. So
mine too.
What a coincidence.
So
Homeless Joe.
Going and unlocking. So going through Kane's Crest and unlocking a Renfield-type character that swears an oath to you, or having a thrall now that wants your protection, and sending them off on quests and having them come back in periods and having them use your vampiric energy in order to influence other people and change what the cops think or get folks out of jail and stuff, that all starts to make a whole lot more sense than the story of the individual vampire having to wait through those periods. And I think it was that sort of incongruous aspect of the second-person story of a super powerful character having to do all that waiting and energy that really didn't match. But now looking at it as sort of the rabble and the Renfields and the thrall of the world coming to your aid, it just makes so much more sense. It plays so much better. Plus, I'm done charging energy for 3D missions. That just didn't work for me. We tried it because we felt like it would be the right kind of pacing when you've got actions and 3D missions side by side. One of them costs something, the other one doesn't. That didn't play right. So extracting the actions and coming up with a new narrative system, it brings it into harmony. So we're pretty excited about what we have coming out next.
Very cool. And so I'm going to open the floor to our journalists who have thought up some very difficult questions for you, who are going to grill you. And so I will open that up to you guys. Go ahead and shoot. Who wants to go first?
I want to attack the energy because I wanted to be the first guy to attack it. One of the main, it's not a bad deal, but I think one of the main concerns was with as you leveled up, your energy level stays at around 25. Now I haven't broke level 20 yet, so I don't know if it raises beyond that. But your energy requirements went up while your pool stayed the same. So I think that created some confusion. Is that something that's going to change, or does it change later in the higher end of the game?
No. Okay. But that's a very important point, and we did that just like you have. So at level 2, kill 8 guys, you're level 3. Okay? If you're level 20, you don't kill 8 guys to get level 21. So that was the logic that we used in order to have the energy mechanic as a level-oriented sort of a binding mechanic that would keep you working on level 16, 17, 18, so on and so forth. But with the complete redesign of it, you really don't need more than the 25. That was a big concern. I didn't want to have another scale where I'm also increasing the energy pool. So then, let's say, for instance, in the future, I had a low-level minion that had a different energy cost, but then a very high-level player would be able to dominate all of that content really almost instantaneously. That's a concern for me. So that's why I don't grow the energy pool over time. I feel like the higher level guys with bigger and bigger energy pools are going to be able to wash through all of that content really, really quickly. So given the fact that we're changing the mechanic fundamentally, we have re-examined whether or not we should grow the energy pool. And the number one thing is whether or not it's fun at the high level to trigger all of your minions doing their things. And I think it is. I think it's significantly more fun now doing that mechanic with the limited pool of just the 25 points. So we're not changing it for now, and after we put out the change, we'll examine if people really hate it from that perspective, because I think it works so much better. So I'm not increasing it.
Cool.
Now my question has to do with sort of finding players to play with, and this was something that I kind of noticed with Dark Legends that compared to maybe Star Legends, which I played a lot of, that it seemed like I was finding fewer random people to play with. You know, I'm kind of, when I play these games, I'm a little more independent. I like to kind of jump in and out and do my own thing, and it seems like with the energy mechanic, it's a bit more challenging to find, you know, a group of people that you want to stick with, because of the fact that, you know, I might have to jump out and can't do the next mission because I'm out of energy.
Yeah.
Was that sort of a conscious decision to make this more solo of a game, or is there anything you're planning on adjusting for that?
Yeah, so we did want to make it more of an individualized experience for the sole reason that we wanted to infuse the entire experience with a lot more character. But the downside of that is we wound up segregating players along that exact line. I think your experience is typical of people who are trying to play together, who are aggressive players who would like to advance as quickly as they could, given their skills and the opportunities, but because of the artificial barriers of their energy, are going to be split up from their pickup groups. And that was an unintended consequence. And initially, we felt like we would be able to, we would see people joining one another, using the map, using the friends list, and being able to get together very easily. But the fact that there was this overarching sort of game pacing mechanic with the energy, that really messed it up. So in response, the next major update is not going to have any energy requirements for any of the 3D. So you can be with your group, hang out in town, go to any of the 3D missions together, and you have a contiguous experience. And then if your group wants to, you know, fire off some tasks for your minions, you can do that quickly and then get right back into fighting together. So I think that'll be a big fix to that problem.
Oh yeah, I really think that, you know, that once that goes live, I think that's going to, that is going to change the experience, because yeah, it was hard to get a group of like more than even just finding someone else. That was a rare experience for me.
Yeah, it was for me too. I mean, like jumping in and playing is one of my favorite things about Pocket Legends and also Star Legends, was being able to jump into that really awesome group that's just, you're just steamrolling everything and you're having a great time and everyone's having fun, and then all of a sudden in Dark Legends it's sort of like you're playing in a campaign and then all of a sudden it's like someone has to leave because they're out of energy, or it really kind of breaks up that flow and that pacing that was so fun in the other two games. And so it's interesting that you guys are sort of taking that approach with this one, because I really like the fact that this is not just I like the fact that you guys are taking risks like this, because a lot of companies would be totally fine resting on their laurels and doing a similar formula and saying, well, let's just go with what works, and if it's not broken, don't fix it. Yeah, you guys are very crazy. I know. Barry by himself. I mean, his crazy just sort of trickles down to everybody.
We have a real difficult time just being normal and having normal lives. But the result is that we do make some really weird choices, and in terms of video game development, it's the dream of our lives. I've worked at big companies and been responsible for massive, massive projects and incredible budgets. And the fun is really low. But being here with my pals, with people that we've recruited that are just some of the finest developers in the industry, it's a joy. And to make risks and to stand there together behind the curtain and put out something that you really just don't know in your gut, because you can't test something that nobody's ever played before, and then you find out that it's okay, we love these things, we hate some of those things, blah, blah, blah. That's the culture here, and it's very interesting. It's a very, very collaborative, performance-oriented culture, and we put our products out, and then we deal with the consequences.
Yeah, it must be really nice to be able to, because you're in mobile, it's a little bit easier to push an update to a game. So if you have something on console, or if you have something that's such a finished, polished product on PC, you're sort of dealing with an issue where you can't make those kinds of changes without huge player base upheavals and get people getting out their torches and the pitchforks. So it must be nice in mobile to be able to make those changes as you see the game needs them.
Yeah, but I guess it's really about making the changes irrespective of the glow of the torches and the sound of the pitchforks, because they're there. I mean, when we put out PL, we did get crucified for all sorts of stuff, from the limited the instances. It's like, well, it's not an MMO, it's more like Guild Wars, but it's on the phone, but it's not an MMO. And having to deal with that, fighting uphill against people's preconceptions of, well, if you can't do this, then it can't be considered that. And we never cared, you know. We just said, this is our super fun. We love making games like this, and you know, coming from our pedigree, it's like I think I would rather not try to make that product that is final in that first moment, because I like live development. I like being with fans. I like getting feedback, because those are the creative problems that to me really matter. Those are the problems that from an improvisational, performative, the things that musicians and performance artists and other people on stage really get to enjoy, is that moment-to-moment exchange with an audience, and their passion and their intelligence and all of that energy pushing into what you do is what makes this job so much more fun compared to making any packaged good. And I don't care, I mean, even working on mobile, I probably would prefer not to make finished packaged goods for mobile either. Our company did that for a little while before we decided to make Pocket Legends. We put out a bunch of iOS things like Zombie Weatherman and and they were fun to make, but they were fire and forget, and we just watched their performance. We're like, okay, great, people like Zombie Weatherman. But it wasn't like, well, now we want to add, you know, the zombie weather girl, and now there's a zombie sports guy, or whatever it was. We never really did that because it was final and it was done. And I don't know, it's great to have the feedback. And what we're going through in Dark Legends right now is the perfect example of that, where we feel it was tons of good feedback, some of it difficult to hear, but now we've come out the other side, and I'm super excited to put it out. So I think it's going to be pretty badass. Yeah, anyway.
So, Heidi, what do you got?
Well, I have a question. This had come up during our review, and that was that, you know, when I had seen during the demo at GDC and everything, like, there's so much cool stuff to get. So much. And, you know, I'm a big fan of the costumes, but, like, you know, there are just other things that you can get. And the big thing was, it seemed like, you know, it kind of felt like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I couldn't touch anything, you know, without paying. And it was like, the big question that we had received during our review, and also some feedback, was, is there or will there be a way to earn currency to maybe purchase some of these things?
Interesting. I don't know if we're going, so there's actually, it's a complex answer, because two things. Before I forget, because the lead design on Dark Legends just nerfed all the prices. So what's going out next is like this huge sale on it, because we did get a ton of this feedback. People need these outfits too. They're really badass and they're super sexy, and I really would like people to be wearing them.
We need them.
I have a Disco Elvira. It's the Elvira sort of dress with an afro, and it's amazing.
It's nice. But
that's how I like to roll. That's how I do it.
But from the perspective of having to earn it, so the design leadership and I are talking about how we can get some of the outfits available as drops potentially, or out as rewards. Like for instance, one of the minions that we're talking about adding to your ensemble later in Dark Legends would actually be a fashionista of some type, and she or he would be able to get some of these things for you. It's exciting to us, but one of the things that we need to keep in mind with it is just what that would do. We know now that we have a live product. Having those things change, not just in terms of their pricing, but in terms of their availability, how prolific they are as drops or whatever, or as rewards, could have a pretty negative effect on a lot of the loyal buyers who are there in the very beginning. So figuring out precisely what to do for us generally means coming up with more and more variations of the cool stuff and then making that as available as possible. So I don't think it's going to be likely that you're going to go through game mechanisms specifically to earn the platinum in-game currency, but to answer that exact problem, I would like to come up with means of either earning the separate in-game currency for the gold, making those items available for gold, and potentially nerfing the prices further for the gold guys, and then offering some of the outfits for people just as straight rewards for having played through much of the campaigns. So there's a wide variety of things that we can do there, and in the end, I think we feel like the fans do. We want more outfits on more people, and so we're going to do stuff to make that happen.
Cool.
Cool. Nice. So we have some questions from some of the fans, denizens of the Spacetime Studios forums and Twitter. And I actually am really curious about this as well. Where did the inspiration for Dark Legends come from? Because it's quite a bit different than the other two. It's darker. Somebody mentioned it being like Underworld. To me, it reminds me of Vampire the Masquerade. Like I get that sort of feel from it. So where did Dark Legends come from? Like who was watching True Blood and was like, this is it?
Oh man, got the geekiest possible answer for this. So I don't watch True Blood. I hadn't watched True Blood. Hadn't followed the Underworld stuff. I'm just a really hardcore horror person. I love it. And so well before there was Spacetime, and even before, as we were doing the development for our first product at Spacetime, it had a huge horror component. In fact, when we got out of the gate with our original game for Spacetime back in 2005 called Black Star, this game involved space vampires whose whole deal was coming and invading Earth with their whole vampiric stuff. And we were really focused. In fact, we created a sub-race of them that were called the Riven, which were this undead version of these same, or more, even more dead version of these same, that were all clad in this crazy sort of high-tech mummification, and they would, walk around making their pronouncements in the ancient language and had magics and crap like that. And so we just love it. So it's in our DNA. Space-time story is I'm not going to go into it because we're having fun, but there was a point in our development where we were, so we're making Pocket Legends. And we were making Pocket Legends because it really resonated with the things that we wanted in our lives. At the point that we were making Pocket Legends, life was kind of bleak. Gary, me, Andy, Jake, the rest of the team were small. We were in a tiny, cramped little office. We didn't know if we were going to have a tomorrow. And making Pocket Legends was all about taking humble, very simple characters, the cute characters, and having them face the insurmountable odds of this fantasy world. So it really resonated with just what was going on in our hearts, because we were little guys, facing what seemed like this terrible thing. So really focusing on the cute heroism of those characters is what that whole period was about. Emerging from that period and making Star Legends, we made a conscious choice to re-envision an existing property. So we already had tons of work that we had done in development of Black Star. We said, well, let's not go crazy here. We've got a successful product with Pocket Legends. If we want to make another one, we don't want to go crazy in pre-production with no idea. We're going to make this game, and we're going to keep it cute, because we kind of know cute from Pocket Legends. Now, this is a span of a couple of years, and in that period of time, when you're such a horror addict, It's hard to live. It's hard to live in a world where everything's kind of positive and okay. And so immediately start with horror and violence and something really dark and powerful. And that's where the beginning came from. And I wanted to make something where you're really powerful character, like a superhero style character, but have a very dark origin. And I couldn't think of anything better than a vampire, because the vampire is so powerful, so sexy, charismatic, has all of those awesome metaphorical components, and they can also just slice your head right off, and that I thought was a super fun combination for a core hero. I've also designed this game like 3 or 4 times in my career, and this was the opportunity I had to really just sort of make the hell out of it, and everybody on the team too, just so much into horror. They love it. Zombies, vampires. So
you got to admit the timing of it though is pretty good, with vampires being so in right now. I mean.
Mm-hmm.
They are. They are in. Although again, I'm not particularly sure what's in about them. I know that there's the Twilight story.
They're really good looking. I know that.
Well,
yeah.
They're very sparkly, I've heard. That's like
Yes.
a thing. Sparkle, unicorn, something, I don't know.
If there's a unicorn dude in the next Twilight, I am absolutely buying the box set.
Yes,
that's a really awesome
I will
story.
do it. Like if it's like Team Edward, and then like the other guy who's the werewolf, who has really overly groomed eyebrows, and then some other dude, we'll make it a love square instead of a triangle, and he can turn into a unicorn. I think that would make the Twilight series a lot better, I think. And then
has the vampire theme though affected what you think your typical age range of your player base is, or is there a typical age range of your player base?
We were expecting that the player base would be older than the existing titles. We really wanted to push for people who were, like me, folks who grew up in the 80s and the early 1990s had a huge deluge of violent films that did extremely well. And a lot of folks of my generation, I think, really have a good operating knowledge of horror conventions. So it seemed like an older audience, 19 plus, 25 plus, would really sort of resonate with the title. And I'll just be honest, I don't run in circles of people under the age of 25, so I have no clue what they think. And I assume that they play the game and think that the gameplay is really fun, but all of the cultural references they still tend to escape me, because I don't really spend a lot of time either reading Twilight or watching those movies, although I am familiar with those guys, the eyebrows, which he should donate when he passes away.
He should, absolutely. You're absolutely right. They should go to the Smithsonian. That's really where they belong.
Suspended magnetically.
I can't wait for someone to actually ask it. Excuse me, sir, could you please donate your eyebrows?
You ask him.
Do it on the red carpet somewhere. Just totally walk up to him.
I would love the honor of doing that, but I would also not like the restraining order that would follow.
Oh, it's okay.
It needs to be something you can get on your driver's license. Organ donor,
Yeah, like why can't we put bragging rights? Like with bragging rights on Google Plus, like why can't we like put one thing on like our driver's license? Like I have survived the Oregon Trail on my Google Plus page, and I would like that to be on my driver's license. And maybe ask Taylor Lautner for his eyebrows. Maybe
you know his name?
Also.
I didn't even know his name.
I
didn't either.
I'm not
I have
Gossip
no
Pound.
clue
I read
who
all the gossip rags. I listen to
He's
Hollywood.
cut.
That's what we
I know
do.
that.
That's what we do. I just know that he's a werewolf, and his name is Taylor Lautner. And he has really groomed eyebrows. Do you guys have? Let's not talk about that anymore. Let's continue on with our discussion. I know that. So the energy system. Is there an ETA on when this is going to get? This is coming out so that people can prepare for this. Is there anything that we should sort of know about? Anything that you would like players to know about when this is coming out? Obviously, soon is everyone's favorite development phrase, but...
Well, I could give a specific date, and there's really nobody who could get mad. Let me think. I'm looking at my... Hang on a second.
A roundabout figure.
Exclusive.
I'm just down the road here in San Antonio. If you lie about the date, I can come up there and beat you down.
That's fine.
There might be a fight.
What, you got it on
okay.
your BlackBerry? You've got the release date? Like.
Oh no, I was gesturing. I see people gesture to their phone all the time when they're trying to deflect questions. No, I think that we will be done with all of our work for the conversion probably in the next day or two. I don't really want to work over the holiday. My people have been working super hard, so I'm not going to be pushing them this weekend. But I expect everything to be in. Before I came into this meeting, I saw the game playing with the brand new stuff. So we know it's ready. And what we need to do now, because it is a massive change, is we need to spend the time going through the quality assurance process here and make sure that we don't put out anything that's really egregious. Mm-hmm. Just because I can play through it or any of my partners can play through it, that doesn't mean that it works. That means that we're able to get through it. We forget a lot of stuff that our QA team and the designers and artists and everybody, they always catch. So we want to give them some time to do it. But I expect to be washing my hands of it very, very soon and having it up for players very soon.
I'm wondering if the change, you've got PvP in the game, which I haven't messed with at all. I'm not a PvPer, but I was going to play it. But you can essentially buy levels. You can buy experience and buy. You could spend money and literally buy a level if you needed to.
True.
I'm wondering if this change is going to affect PvP and the fact that you can buy a level and maybe the balance of PvP, or if you've heard a lot of complaints about that.
No. Okay, so PvP in Dark Legends is sublime. You should play it. If you don't play PvP in any of the other Legends products, I don't blame you. But in Dark Legends, because in Dark Legends, it's just...
I don't know why I haven't tried it yet.
When we did PvP in Pocket and Star, we did it, and we knew that there would be additional features that we would want. But we just really sort of never got around to them. But then in Dark Legends, we did. Dark Legends has a timer. It counts up a certain number of people. You got to get 3 on either side before you can start fighting. And then we've got the capture the flag maps. And then we also have this new map that's just a sort of a King of the Ring sort of thing, which has got a really nice mechanism. But the relationship between people's being able to pay for experience boosts and the PvP balance have really been kept separate. And one of the things that we did was we made it so that the experience that you can purchase in the game is really still a small amount, and it doesn't matter that much after about level 12. Now, if you look at and do just a very basic cost analysis, and I'm not much of a math person, but it doesn't feel right to be buying little blocks of like 20 or 25 experience for real money. At least when you're a player like me, it feels like I could buy my way over a lump. Like if I'm just right at 8 and I want to be level 9, I can make a quick transaction and I get where I need to be and I can go on with my day. But when you're in your teens or whatever, those individual purchases aren't necessarily a strategic move. At least that's my opinion. We balanced it for that so that players wouldn't necessarily be spending their way to 21, and it's just not very cost effective to do that. So the balance is separate. And with PvP balance in particular, gear is super important, and it's not just the weapon. And if you really get into the gem stats, that's where all of this is won and lost. Because your defensibility, everything related to your health pool, your DPS, everything is going to be coming from the gem combinations, and those are things that you should be hunting for and looting out in the world. That's really where the difference is made in PvP. That and being able to move your tune. Unlike the games that we have in Pocket and Star where there's an auto white damage, Dark Legends is all about getting your guy out of position so that your enemy, fails in doing their charged attack so that you can come in with a charge or whatever, or do that in combination with your buddies. And once you get that, it's just amazingly fun. So definitely play the PvP.
I'll try it. I've just been a wussy about it.
Don't be a Care Bear. What are you doing?
I don't know why. I'll get to it sometime.
Don't be a Care Bear. Come join us. It's not what if you were a vampire, that's the first thing I'd want to go do is fight somebody.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't fight people. I would just get killed by people. That's the point. I wouldn't be fighting. I would just be...
It's a kill or get killed world.
No, that's how
Yeah.
it is. So do you guys, do you want me to roll out another question from viewers, or do you guys
I can't believe they would have another question.
There are...
No, not your
There are 6 questions.
Weird. Weird.
People want to ask you questions. I really like this one. In the game, this has to do with some of the costuming and the era of Dark Legends. So in the game, you see a lot of different references to eras in time. You see men and women in old-fashioned clothes and dresses, and a manor burning down in the opening video. Yet most of the 3D missions and quests seem to take place in present day. Since we are supposed to be avenging our newly murdered master, the opening video confuses me. Exactly which era of time does Dark Legends take place?
I didn't even think about that.
I hadn't even thought about that. It semes totally crazy. I can't imagine.
Somebody just poked holes right into your game. That's what just happened.
Well, we need to go back to the drawing board.
You're going to have to redo all that
He's
background
taking a coffee
there.
break, I guess.
Yeah.
No.
Totally.
So I was going to show, if I could, this picture. I don't know if I... So here's the
fancy.
thing. When we were doing the very first image we did for the vampire concept, I was talking about the setting as being an ancient city that had lasted into the future. So we have at the very bottom, we've got the sense of the oldest of the old, the temples and the sandstone, dug into the earth, a mortar of stone and skulls. And then way high above that, we have the steel and the glass of the 21st century, as if this city of Carvina has lasted throughout time, and that all of the sleeping vampires are not really aware of today and its moment, and that the entirety of the vampire society is sort of living in this sort of a timeless dream or something. So this picture that I was going to bring up was an illustration of that. So really at the very bottom, I've got this ancient place that the art team put together. I believe this is actually drawn by Joe Watmaw, who's just a genius. I love his work.
Wow.
As we go up, we see that we've got all of these different skyscrapers and the penthouse up here where the chief vampire is supposed to live, and of course the moon. And that was really the concept of pushing these two concepts together, saying it's old, it's today, it's the ancient, and it's the future because you're immortal. Doesn't matter.
So it all melds together, right?
Yeah, but let's say, as from a critique perspective, I think that it's great criticism from the fans' perspective, because the movie, the setting, the clothing, and all of that, it does sort of have a fractious sort of feel, and that could be made a lot more singular. I think that with the upcoming story and the upcoming characters and the revamp to the game, you can see it really settles much more into today. It's really settling much more into, you just got made as a vampire, and now deal with the problems. That movie does show like a guy in a nice Abraham Lincoln hat getting hit by a gargoyle. And, it was some time in the past. So yeah, we'll deal with it.
Maybe you're going to bring back the Abraham Lincoln hat.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be a thing.
Yeah.
No.
Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunters coming out, so now it could be a new thing.
Prescient.
A little bit prolific.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. Maybe you have a psychic on your team.
Maybe.
A fashion psychic.
Maybe
Fashion psychic. I like that. That's going to be a show on NBC. Fashion psychic. You can watch it this fall on NBC. So do you guys have more questions about what's going on with energy for Cinco?
I want to hear about Arcane Legends, but I'll let them talk about Dark Legends.
I just gave myself a Dracula medal.
There.
Yeah, how can I get the Dracula medal in the game? I want to get the Dracula medal.
You're an hour away. You could have this. Oh, this is nice, guys. You spared no expense. This is my medal.
I want a medal.
This is very exciting. What's the award? You're giving yourself an award for being...
I'm giving myself an award for messing with energy.
I like it. Congratulations. You should accept your award on behalf of the Vampire Academy.
Yeah, I've also got these little teeth here, which were supposed to be involved in this Hangout deal, but I never got around to putting them on. Imagine me with them.
At least you showed them to us.
Terrifying. Terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm imagining it right now. It's truly terrifying.
Yeah.
Only
if you had put on the teeth and the metal, this could have been when you're asking about the story of, like, yeah, we got turned into vampires, and we decided to do a vampire game to spread our pro-vampire propaganda.
That's pretty good. I would be a vampire. Seems advantageous.
So what do you say?
Yeah.
I got to ask, Cinco, because I got a lot in my columns and stuff, and I got tweets about it. What do you say about people who say that you made the energy mechanic just to make money? It's just a money-making machine.
Yeah, I get that a lot from my family. They're like, you just make video games because you like to make money.
No, but you know what I mean.
No, it's like, how come you don't go back to school? How come you don't donate your time? Anyway, I'm kidding. No, I think what it is, and it's unfortunate, but the mechanic is there in order to balance the player's progress. It's to make it take longer for you to get from one level goal to the next. There really isn't any other way for a fan, player, participant to look at that if they don't like it. When you understand it and understand that it's there just like the number of kills it will require at a higher level for you to advance, then you've got a little bit of a different perspective on it. But I understand. I get the fact that it's a real sticking point for people, which is why we're making the changes that we are, and we're keeping the energy mechanic because fundamentally it's some good gameplay. It was just in the wrong spot. We moved it to a place that it's just way more fun and took it out of the place where it really felt like it was a chore. The stuff that Carter mentioned earlier about getting people separated, we're going to fix that problem with this and then make the energy mechanic just make tons more sense for the people that are playing it as a story. So, yeah, I get it. I get stuff like that all the time.
People call it the Facebook mechanic. That's how people refer to it. So as soon as they heard that, they flipped out.
Yeah.
I have to. Yeah, I was gonna say I have to admit that I was a little skeptical at first when I first heard about the energy mechanic. Is that because it's something that you do see in a lot of those Facebook games and a lot of social games, that it's designed to be that kind of barrier to, I guess, keep people from playing the game. And there's some games I think that really abuse it. I won't mention any by name. This game I think wasn't so bad with it, but it's the kind of thing that affects the way that you play it. And that's sort of the drawback. And it's something, as I mentioned earlier, is that you don't get those sort of large group sessions going, and maybe it kind of encourages more of a segmented play sessions where you play for shorter periods of time, maybe more often. But it also feels like the drawback there is you don't get to really get addicted to the game unless you're spending money on the energy and just buying it constantly so you can keep playing.
Yeah. Well, if you think about what we've done as a studio, we've actually had a systemic learning process where we launched Pocket Legends as a free-to-play but pay-to-unlock campaigns sort of game. Mm-hmm. And that mechanic worked okay, and there weren't enough fans on day one to complain about something like that. But we thought better of that mechanism later on because we work really, really hard to entertain people with the stuff in the 3D world, so it didn't make a whole lot of sense to put that on the other side of a velvet rope. Now, we had this new mechanism for Dark Legends that was the energy, and nobody had ever sort of shoved that into a 3D game like we had before, so we would be the first ones to do it. And I think our discovery, like I mentioned before, is that it's really kind of in the wrong place. But I feel like our experiments in that regard have yielded some really good results. And we're that kind of studio. We don't know. We do stuff that nobody's done, so we do it first, and then we definitely suffer some of the slings and arrows because of it, but we also get the advantages of having done it and then knowing what to do next. And what we didn't do is we didn't make Dark Legends, a literal social game where you're, begging for friends to join, to give you vibes offline, or to send you parts for your crafting mechanics, and so forth. We still stayed focused on 3D, but because the energy was involved in the 3D, it made me step back and think, well, wait a minute. I spend so much time building this stuff, critiquing the designers for the pacing, for how the abilities feel, the comparison of one item to the next. And it's like, well, that shouldn't be gated by the energy mechanic, at least not anymore. And so that process of evaluation, that process of playing, results in the stuff that we have today. I'm really glad to be going through it, and definitely happy to be on the other side of making the conversion.
I'm almost curious as to what people's reaction would have been if you had done the energy barrier, but without the option to buy your way through it, like you almost wonder what fan reaction would have been then. Because I just find it interesting when people say, well, you're only doing that to make money, and then it's like, well, but then it's a double-edged sword, because if you were to take it away, then people would say, well, I should have the ability to buy my way through that. So I find that very interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And also, God forbid you need to eat. So that's also seems important.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of games that use a wait and play mechanic. Hero Academy, you have to wait for your turn. You know, there's I always explain, like sandbox games, you might have to wait for your stamina to light another fire and warm online or whatever. But I think that the problem was that it felt a little bit, the timing just felt a little bit too harsh, too early. That's the criticism I heard.
I think that was sort of a thing that I kind of dealt with as well, where I was like, wow, I have to wait this much time? Like, I wasn't expecting that so early in the game, like having to wait for so long for energy.
I know.
So thanks a lot, Cinco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll thank you guys again, because we got another Legends title, and it's going to be awesome, but probably frustrating.
Well, we saw the teaser. This is Arcane Legends. So why don't you tell us all about it? Tell us everything about it, because clearly we have no respect for secrecy here. We're journalists, so just go right ahead and just tell us everything about it, right?
Yeah. So it's a new title.
The end. He's like, that's it.
It's a very good quality game. So Arcane Legends is all right, so like I talked about how we were immersed in cuteness and with the bears and the birds and cats and stuff, and we sort of freaked out and did horror. After such an intense horror thing, everybody sort of wants to have fun again, and we want to have a happy sort of joking kind of place. But from a game perspective, we love the Dark Legends combat. We love the Pocket Legends connectivity and the multiplay, and those things are, for me, peanut butter and chocolate, and they're together in Arcane Legends. Arcane Legends looks so beautiful. It's a medieval fantasy game all about magic, and...
Sorry, someone's at my door. I'm recording something right now. Okay, I'll come over.
I was so worried my dogs were going to bark this whole time.
I have 2 dogs, and they're just like, they get really aggravated when people just like knock and walk. So I just had the mail come in, and my
that was
neighbor,
pretty tame reaction for the mail, actually. So
yeah, well, it's my landlord, so they were like growling, and then as soon as he opened the door, they were like, oh, it's you. So, but please continue with Arcane Legends. A combination chocolate and peanut butter. You're very excited about this.
The puppies in Arcane Legends.
Yummy.
It's a yummy game. Medieval fantasy. The core combat that we have in Dark Legends has been improved for Arcane Legends. The world is a very open world. We're adding a party mechanic. We've got a really beautiful waypointing system that allows you to go to different areas and land very quickly, but keep the group together. We have an amazing combo system. The world itself is just gorgeous. The team has established so many great techniques of getting beautiful, really efficient stuff into the phones and the tablets. Now the team is just really playing with expression, and the look of the characters is really unique. It's very fresh. The environment is just extremely, extremely rich, and just depth of color and all of this awesome shape. So I'm hanging out with a whole bunch of artists that have really sort of found their instrument and are putting Arcane Legends together very quickly, and the design team is just freaking out because they have all these anims and these beautiful characters, and they're putting them into these settings. It's just super compelling. So it's running at a fever pitch right now. I mean, there's a super small team, just a couple of people working on Arcane Legends. Everybody else is on the live products, so they're going to get updates across the board really soon, but this small team is running super, super fast. The game makes perfect sense. loving the medieval fantasy. It's really funny. Everybody looks awesome, and the combat is just to die for. So, anyway.
Is energy involved?
What's that?
Is energy involved?
No. No, it doesn't have energy, but it has a different sort of mechanic. I'm not going to talk about the details of the mechanic because I'm doing something brand new again that people are probably going to hate me for. But
I will start sharpening my pitchfork.
Might as well. But we're developing a system where similar to the minions and the other thrall that you'll wind up with in Dark Legends, there'll be characters along the way in Arcane that'll be happy to see you again, and that might have something for you in a couple of days. And creating a narrative circuit of going from place to place in this medieval land, and maybe the sorcerers like to research something for you, some enchantments. The blacksmith, spending a couple of days working on the improvements of your weapons. So there's not the energy mechanic, but another mechanism that's significantly involved in terms of story and character presentation that won't be in the player's hands. So you'll have people who are not heroes having to do work for you, and you may be able to accelerate that maybe with coin, maybe with plat. We really haven't decided how that's going to work. But the main thing is that the core player experience is really classic. It's like Pocket Legends significantly evolved, just tons more fun. And I think that the character elements that we have, the crafting and the appointment-related mechanics are going to work really beautifully in this game. And yeah, there won't be a mention of energy.
So as I say, it's fall time, like fall window for release-ish?
I guess so. I want it to come out on a Tuesday.
Okay.
Well, hey.
No, a Tuesday. Tuesday's a good day of the week.
Wednesday's okay too for us. Is that all right? Okay. Wednesday's also okay.
Oh,
The lawyers.
I'm looking at the. There are 8 lawyers here. I can't turn this thing.
PR.
HR concerns, etc. But
Just a question from a fan: what's your favorite campaign in Dark Legends?
ooh, what is my favorite I think my favorite campaign is
Aside from the hobo molesting, that's
Yeah.
clearly that's number one. But if you had to choose a second, what would it be?
Well, I really love when we're fighting the gangsters. When you get to the gangland portion of Dark Legends, it's funny for me because when we interview people in the period we were developing Dark Legends, I interviewed a number of designers, and it was the gangsters that I always used for their tests. So the designer comes in. Of course, the designer is somebody, they've got some education, they've worked on some titles, they may have gone to a trade school. They're awesome, smart people, and what they have to do is they have to sit with me and come up with brand new campaign. It's got to be entertaining. It's got to make sense. And what I would do is I'd always bring up the gangbangers, and for the game design people, it was always sort of this weird sort of out of scope things. Normally you're looking at monsters, zombies and kings and queens and bandits and stuff like that. But then when it's gangbangers, and then I say, well, the gangbanger is in love with the giant bat, and then somehow they fit together in the campaign, and somehow you're going to have to make all the missions that make sense out of it. Very challenging stuff, but and people would do it too. There's some really talented folks in this town. But it's really because of that. Whenever I'm playing against those gangsters, I keep thinking, it's like, you're doing this for the giant bat, and the giant bat's gonna, he's gonna see what you're doing out here, and you're gonna be in trouble. I really love that campaign, but I also really enjoy the end. When you get to Marshwood at the end, I think the way that this is Phil for the most part, Phil King and Chris. I mean, they did beautiful work with the encounters, the look of that area, and the way that some of those cultists are fighting you. It's just it's gorgeous, and I really love pulling them all together in a big mass and making the blood explode out of their bodies. It's fun. Yeah, probably the end of the game.
I love that you're so cheerfully twisted about that. Like,
Yes.
It makes me feel like you really. I like when you talk to a developer and you can tell they're very connected to the material that they're putting out, and they really take a lot of care in putting their sort of fanaticism for whatever it might be, horror or a different genre.
Hobos.
I think it really shows.
I know hobos. Now, when you're a hobo, yeah, I would not rob Spacetime of my expertise with the hobos, but yeah, it was probably the most fun thing in the world to be working with the team, especially the design and effects team, in describing how these vampire abilities should work. There's tons that actually didn't ship with the game because they're really difficult to render. Like we wanted to, and we did end up with some blood eruption and things where you pull the blood out of people. But we went back to an old Stephen King and in Carrie, and also there was a John Ferris book from like the 70s called The Fury, where this telekinetic guy, who was just like a Carrie, was ripping the blood out of people. And it's just such a horrifying thing. We spent a lot of time on that, trying to get that right. That didn't ship. But then there was a bunch of other things surrounding the destruction of your enemies that were just, they were horrifying and graphic, but just so much fun to develop as a team. It just really brings everybody together. Now we're working on Arcane Legends, and the magic in Arcane Legends has a little bit of a different perspective. It's not the perspective of a bitter, ancient, dead person who's out for vengeance. It's more the perspective of kind of, snarky, cute characters that know their place in the world and are, doing things to humiliate their enemies, or doing things to have fun with their buddies together, setting up combos where their enemies will wind up doing some really humiliating and silly things when they die. And that's the sort of thing that I want to do with my friends, is stomp through this medieval fantasy world, just crushing folks, but doing it in a way that isn't, heartbreaking and so visceral, like
yeah, very visceral, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Beau, do you have any more questions?
Just concerned, or just wondering if you're concerned at all about the saturation point of the legends. You're using a lot of your new designs in the new game. Are you also going to apply those new designs to the old game, or are you worried about just constantly having to create new titles?
That's a great question. So Spacetime is built on the Spacetime engine, and we've got an incredible piece of technology that lets us do all of this. So everything so Dark Legends added a bunch of new stuff, and our technology team has brought all of that stuff back to Star and Pocket. Now, that means that the art and the design teams need to use that technology to add achievements, charged abilities, the new charged combos, all of the extensions to the systems, the PvP, etc. All of that now needs to be built by our team, but now we can. And it was always our plan with our technology base to have all of our online products in the Legends series sharing this one code base, able to use whatever features were relevant. So we'll probably see all of the relevant things make their way down into Pocket and Star, that persistent Dark Legends, and then the things that we're adding new to Arcane Legends, many of them will have immediate direct applications to Pocket, Star, and Dark. Some may not. And I think because of the way that we develop our technology as this one singular base, there may be some places where we don't do feature X, but we do feature Y from a game that was released later. So I'm really excited about doing that. In fact, we just got done naming all of the achievements in Pocket Legends, and they're freaking cool. And so playing the game through and getting all the different achievements for the bosses and for the different loot drops and for completing auction house stuff and all of that, it's just super fun. And these are a different application of achievements than you have in Dark Legends. Dark Legends is largely about having clothes and killing bosses and advancing through the content. Pocket Legends has got some different stuff to that. We're about to start doing our achievements as well for Star Legends. Star Legends also benefits now from new things that Dark had for the abilities. So we'll be able to do weapons that are, beams. We're working on a flamethrower now for the special event in Star Legends. We've also got this, in Dark Legends, you can teleport really quickly or like zip to different positions. We've got some purposes for that. Maybe even extending the top end of skills in Pocket and Star, where some of those ranks may get some very different effects. All of that's really exciting, and it's because the Spacetime engine is what it is. So so I really want to make all those games use whatever they can from that battery of technology.
Awesome.
Gonna be fun.
Carter, what's happening on your end? What you got?
Well, I'm just interested in. I know you're talking a lot, Cinco, about making changes to the game, and is this something that it's going to be at some point requiring an update to the client? Where I have to re-download it through the App Store or through Google Play or Amazon App Store, however they're getting it, or is this still something that you're able to do with just downloading new packages in the app? And that is something that I know that I noticed a lot in the game, where you have to download the packages in the game. I mean, just how flexible is your system with making like an update, like changing the energy like that?
Yeah, we do all of that without updating the client, and we have it's not out yet, but there is incidentally an update for Dark Legends that's also coming down the pipe, and it may coincide with this data change. But the data that we're talking about, it involves the energy and the story mechanic and the pictures of the minions and all of the things that they do for you, that was all done without any code changes. And that's what our engine allows us to do. So it doesn't require that update. You will patch for it. And we'll need to handle people who are in the midst of their advancement and converting that over to new things, so that nobody has sort of half-finished actions or half-finished missions and stuff like that. But no, we can do that entirely without requiring a new client, which is getting more and more powerful with each of the games that we put out. And now that we have this technology for these 3 products here, I would expect that we could make some major changes to the way that the game plays in favor of fun factor, solving problems without having to involve client updates. So
cool.
Great.
Heidi, what's on your end?
Well, mine is kind of going in a different direction from technology, more on design, actually. I know that myself and a lot of others commented on the beautiful graphics and the beautiful design of your talented art team. And, I just have a request from a journalist perspective is, we see a lot of screenshots with press releases. Is it possible at some point to maybe release some concept art for the fans?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think that would be great, and especially be exciting for our concept folks here. I think they'd love to share their work with the people, and yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, some of the concept art I think would translate really well to a tablet wallpaper, or because you guys have some really, really talented concept artists that we've seen. When you guys release some of the concept art for stuff, some of it's just so mind blowing. It's gorgeous environments, and you just have these really talented people, and it would be really fun to sort of feature them.
Yeah. Okay. That's a takeaway from this discussion.
So we're gonna get into our last few questions here, because we've actually been talking for just about an hour, which is craziness. And I know that a couple of us have other engagements later this afternoon. So let's who wants to have their last question? Does anybody have anything in particular that you are just burning to ask?
Just a quick question. Do you have more players on mobile or the browser? How has the browser been performing?
Browser's great, but we really have the vast majority of our players are coming to us by their devices, and it's still largely the phones, but more and more people are getting tablets, high-end tablets and stuff like that. So we're seeing tons of that. But yeah, browser. I think since it was the most recent addition to our ensemble, it's not as big of a deal yet. But it plays really well in the browser. I really love WASD and Spacebar and 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's really cool. And I get a little tired of the clicking.
It's it's actually a little physically easier for myself to play on the browser.
Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, the mobile devices are really what's leading for us.
Cool.
Yeah, I actually.
He's got his
Now bite a developer, and we'll end with that.
Yeah. Is that there's no right teeth? I think isn't it supposed to be like they're one over?
Those on your canines.
Yeah. So one more over. You're just done.
Don't lose those in the
All right,
auction.
we should give them away. We should give them away as a prize.
Oh no, they're metal waste now.
Cinco's used fangs.
His DNA. You can clone a Cinco now.
Yeah.
You can sell it on eBay, or you could build a shrine to Cinco.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Make your own chief visionary officer.
Yeah, make your own CEO. I like it. Make your own.
Cool.
It's a little easier than Quickstarter. You could just make a producer.
It's true.
Clone him real quick.
Might turn out like Hand Banana a little bit, but you know.
Hand Banana.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force, but
okay.
Clone at your own risk.
As they say. So, Carter, last question? Anything?
Oh, I just kind of had a counterpoint to Beau that I actually now granted I play a lot of mobile games. I don't really play a lot in terms of the PC, but I actually kind of like playing better on the mobile. I'm more a fan of the virtual joystick than the Joystiq controls. And I don't know, is that something
physically taxing? Just to kind of, it's more physically taxing to me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand, but
it's exhausting to use your thumbs for it's very serious calisthenics using your thumbs all day long. No wonder you're so thin, Beau. That must be your secret.
You're just doing this all day.
Yeah.
Sorry, Carter.
You burn a lot of calories just sitting here like that.
Yeah.
But I guess Cinco. I mean, have you heard anything from people that do play on the browser as far as do they like the controls on the browser? Or is there anything that you're planning on tweaking with that interface, or just what are you hearing?
We're hearing really great things. I think largely it's about the defaults. Power user understands how to go in there, unlocking the camera to get mouse camera. So there's a bunch of features that are not set up by default that would probably be a much better experience. So we're looking at that right now. So that I'm sorry.
Key bindings.
Yeah, things like that. So there's a big suite of features that we could be adding to the browser experience. I think that would make it so much cooler. But we got it out there in order to see what that feedback would be like, and we didn't know. I mean, we assumed that it would be good, but we really didn't know how people are going to take to it. And now that we know, I think it's definitely worthy of more tweaks, additional features, things that are pretty easy to sort of pull off the shelf from other PC MMO experiences. So yeah, it's tons to do there, for sure.
Nice. All right, Heidi. Yeah, I think you're going to be the very last question.
Oh, geez.
Make it a good one.
I'll make it a really good one because I know it's. Oh, I've got some feedback.
Oh, we've got some technical issues.
Gremlins.
1 second.
There we go. Yes, gremlins.
Hold on. There we go. That's what I get for getting curious. I was seeing what people were saying on the YouTube channel, and it was like two of them at the same time. But anyway, so I guess because this had come up, Cinco, when you and I talked before, we had a nice chat about the costumes because I'm a dork for concept art and costumes for characters and all of that. Is there a chance that that users might be able to participate at some point, maybe for holidays or for some sort of event where maybe they can enter a contest of designing a new contest, like a new costume or a new weapon for their characters?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. We did our first weapons contest for Pocket Legends a little while ago. I said first. We did an item suite as a contest. We did some Pocket Legends item design contests, and they were awesome. And so I think that it's absolutely fair game And I would really like to see the fans participate, especially with some campaigns that we could spend a little bit more time doing. One thing that's really enjoyable is once we get into the right development pace, where I can tell the fans that we're working on X, and then we can give them a little preview, and then start talking about what would be really cool drops, or what would be some really cool fashions that you could get out of this upcoming campaign, and then try to do that development and build hype in tandem with that, because that would be really fun for us here at Spacetime, and I think really fun for the fans participating. And yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think for Pocket Legends, we're going to have another fan design contest very soon related to our Humania release. We got a new island release and a level 70 upgrade, and it could use a handful of new weapons. And I think Dark, absolutely. Dark is brand new, and we still have a couple of things in the backlog we'd like to get out. But then at that point, I think it'd be really awesome to see what the fans come up with.
Halloween seems like a good time.
Halloween.
It's really fun. If somebody, I could have a player designed costume contest.
Love it.
Super cool. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up. So first I want to thank our journalists, our intrepid, high-standing journalists who came in. Beau, thank you very much. Beau Hindman, massively.com. You can check out his work there. You can check out Carter Dotson's work. Thank you so much, Carter, at 148apps.com. And you can check out Heidi Duran's lovely writings over at girlgamer.com. She is the editor-in-chief, and she will beat you to death if you don't behave there. It will. Of course, thank you to Cinco Barnes, the Chief Visionary Officer over at Spacetime Studios. You guys can go to darklegends.com. If you haven't downloaded the game, well, you're crazy, and you definitely should. It's really fantastic, and with all the changes coming up, it's definitely worth your time on your cell phone or tablet. So, and I'm Ashley Esqueda. You can find me on g4tv.com for Knuckle Up, which is the mobile gaming roundup, and techfoolery.tv, which is the podcast that I host. And be warned, there's a lot of swearing in it. So, but it's a lot of fun, yeah. See, he's got to go. See, Beau's already ready to play. He's going to get offline and start playing immediately. Yes, and he's going to have his daily workout, his daily thumb workout. It's very serious.
Burn some calories.
Burn some calories. But thank you, everybody, for coming to this hangout, and all of our guests. Thank you so much for taking your time, and hopefully we will do this again soon, maybe for Arcane Legends.
It's tons of fun. So much fun hanging out with you guys. Very cool.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, it's been great, Cinco. Yeah, and maybe we'll be back to complain about the new mechanic in Arcane Legends.
We'll go ahead and get our complaints prepared in advance, and then we'll come back and complain about them to you.
Beautiful.
All right, everybody. Well, that's it for the Spacetime Studios Dark Legends Hangout with Cinco Barnes and all of our journalist friends. We'll see you next time.